Hello and welcome to my review of issue 3 of the Lord of the Rings The Card Game Magazine. This issue, as you might be able to tell, is based off the standalone scenario Fog on the Barrow Downs, and this one is probably one that I've enjoyed the most so far, mainly because it combines staging, questing, progression and combat. But yeah, it's also nice just to play something that's outside of the normal saga expansions and adventure packs that you get in the cycles. So yeah, just taking a look at what it comes with. We get a full sheet of tokens, which is nice. These are the proper ones, unlike the ones that you get with issue 1 that say that you have to cut out yourself with scissors. So that's always good if you've got a core set to add to them. And then you get 28 cards in total, 8 player cards and 10 encounter cards. And we'll have a look at those later. Then on the front you can see we've got the adventure itself, Fog on the Barrow Downs, and then the Tom Bombadil card, which is in its foil finish, and then just a list of bullet points here with the new adventure, Hobbit decks, the full list of rules and references, but as we'll show in a minute, it's not quite the full list of rules. Just turning over the first page here, as you can see I've already separated these out to go into a ring binder while I was playing. So then over here we've got the contents page as usual, and then just an explanation about what's in the issue in regards to explaining the sequence of the phases within each round. And over here we've just got the journey of the hobbits so far, so that explaining that they were trapped inside a willow tree, and Tom Bombadil just happened to pass by and rescue them as part of the story. They then stayed the night and got fed and watered, and then set off in the morning across the Barrow Downs. So just on to the next page. So over here we've just got the usual setup to the adventure, just explaining what heroes to use, what cards to have in your player deck, and that we'll be using just the encounter cards from this issue. It also has the tokens, explaining that we'll be using both the progress and the resource and the damage tokens, and then also saying that we've got a threat tracker for this adventure as well. And over here we've got the start of the full explanation of the rules, or partial explanation of the rules if you're used to the full Fantasy Flight game. So we've got phase 1, which is the resource phase, where you add 1 resource to each of your heroes and then draw a card. The planning phase, where you then get to play attachments onto your allies, or by playing allies from your hand. Then on to phase 3, we've got questing, which just takes you in turn what you have to do in terms of committing characters, drawing a card from the encounter deck, and then comparing the willpower of the cards that you've committed to the threat strength of the card that's been drawn from the encounter deck. So that's that first half, just on to the next one. And then this box up here is just explaining about your progress tokens in terms of whether they should be going onto the location card that you've travelled to, or whether they should be making progress towards the adventure that you're currently on. Phase 4 is engagement. In this one I found it a bit conflicting in terms of the rules that you get for the full game. It says that you make an engagement check with your current threat, and if their engagement cost is lower than your current threat, then the enemy card will engage you into the combat on the next phase. But what it doesn't say that is if you have multiple enemies engaged with you, only one of them in this instance will be engaged with you. Anything else with a lower engagement cost will stay in the staging area. And step 5, we've got the combat phase, which is fairly straightforward in regards to attacking and defending. The only thing I have found with this is that it doesn't explain about what happens to damage when you don't have a defender to defend against an attack. I don't know whether that's something where they assume you'll always have a defender to defend against an attack or not. I'm not sure, but undefended attacks, if you don't know already, the full damage of an attack, if it is undefended, should be assigned to any one hero, and that's also ignoring any defense that they'll have. And then finally onto the refresh phase, where all your cards are readied again and you add 1 threat onto your progress tracker. So looking over here, this is the first part of the adventure where they've just moved into the Barrow Downs, and looking at the top you can see that it requires 12 progress tokens to continue the adventure. And then we've got this box here that is just giving you a reminder to think about when to attack and when to make progress on a quest. If you've got a lot of enemies in the staging area, it might start to become too difficult to make any progress on the quest, so that then you should really be thinking about engaging one of the enemies to remove that threat from the staging area. So now once you've got 12 progress tokens on that, it's on to the next stage. So this stage is where the hobbits then get lost in the fog and they end up unconscious inside one of the great barrows. And down here we've got a special rule to represent this, where it says at the start of your first turn at this quest phase, you want to exhaust all your heroes bar one, and then you want to discard cards from the encounter deck until you find a white enemy, and then put that enemy into play in the staging area. But then finally, as an added bonus, if you do manage to pass this stage of the quest, you get to shuffle into your player deck 3 Daggers of Westerness, which is quite nice. So then up here we've just got this box explaining that with Tom Bombadillo card, if you have that in your hand, it might be a good idea to play that now, because what that does is it shuffles the Tom Bombadil card into the encounter deck, and with the encounter deck possibly becoming low on cards, it gives a greater chance of him to appear and help save the day. Because with this special rule down here, adding 1 extra white enemy to the staging area, it means you might have quite a high threat to deal with, which will make it very difficult to make progress. And then as you can see, this is what the playing area should look like at this stage in the quest, if you've been doing as well as they're hoping. And then up here we've just got an explanation of some of the enemies and the different types, and then some of the encounter cards or treacheries that come out of the encounter deck and what you might want to do to counteract some of them. So with that, once you've made your 9 progress, it's on to the next step. And then up here we've got Lost in the Fog, where we're out of the Great Barrow now and just trying to escape. As you can see, you just need 12 progress to finish this adventure. Hopefully it's fairly straightforward, but it might be quite difficult if you've managed to leave lots of Barrowites building up in the staging area. Then this box down here is just explaining that you might now have enough with those extra dagger cards, enough attack strength to start engaging in enemies and killing them straight away. There is a bit of a printing error again though, because it says down here about Merry getting +1 to his defense for each Hobbit hero you control, but that's not really the case, because his card, which I'll show now, is just saying that you get +1 attack for each Hobbit you control. And then down here it says about him having an attack strength of 5 as a result of controlling 4 Hobbits. But that's not correct either, because he has 0 attack strength to begin with and there's only 4 Hobbits. Just a bit of an oddity again in the printing. So with that, hopefully you managed to get 12 progress tokens, and then that concludes the adventure. Just looking onto the last few pages then, we've got tracking progress, which means that you could replay this a few times and it gives you an idea of what you can do to keep score. Replaying the adventure in terms of using different cards, different heroes, and reshuffling the encounter deck again, obviously. Yeah, and then here, look, it's just got about building your own deck and changing your heroes. And then, yeah, onto the last few pages. Here we've just got the conclusion to the adventure and just a bit of an explanation onto where they're going next and to where the next issue may lead. And then the last few pages are just the usual rules pages, so just explaining, as it says up here, the card anatomy of the enemy cards, the treachery cards, and then the location cards and the objective cards. And then the bonus page here is just your threat tracker, so if you like a 1 to 99 number grid, That's what they've given you for now for your threat tracker. It might be something that if they do continue this, they'll give you a proper cardboard one, but we'll see. There's nothing on the back here. It's just more advertising. Issue 5, which no one will probably see if this doesn't continue. So that's that. I'll just get the cards ready and we'll take a look. So here we have the cards, which is arguably the most interesting one on top. I've just unsleeved it for now, just so you can pick it up better on the camera. This is the foil version of the Tom Bombadil card from the Fog on the Barrow Downs standalone scenario. Looks very nice. It's got like a silvery border to it because it's an ally card, and then it's got the encounter back to it so that you can't use it in your player deck. That's that. And then just a quick flick through these. So we've got one hero, which is Pippin in his law sphere. These ones are sleeved now because I've been playing with them. I didn't want to dirty all the edges of the cards. Seems that they're so white. And then yeah, we've just got the 3 Daggers of Western cards, the Tom Bombadillo, and then 3 Shadow of the Past cards, which are all used in this adventure. And these are the encounter cards, all from the same expansion. You've got the Barrel Whites, Cold White, then the Dark White. Fortunately, this one didn't actually appear for me in my adventure. And then the rest are treacheries. So that's that. I'll just show you what my final playthrough, my ending screen as it were, was like. It went quite well, I think. I didn't encounter the most powerful Barrow White, and what I was able to do was get unexpected courage on Merry to begin with, which meant that I was able to kill things quite quickly when I got them into the staging area, so I didn't have to worry about the threat cost building up. So yeah, that was pretty good. So if you've got any questions or anything about this issue, just let me know. Put them in the comments or wherever, and we'll get on to the last issue, which is issue 4 of this limited run, which should go out in about a week's time. So yeah, cheers.